It's Friday, August the 19th, and this is the Greenbrier Valley Church of the Nazarene with your daily devotion. Today we are reading from the book of Acts, chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Here's the word of the Lord. Now a man named Ananias, together with his wife Sapphira, also sold a piece of property. With his wife's full knowledge, he kept back part of the money for himself, but bought the rest and put it at the apostles' feet. Then Peter said, Ananias, how is it that Satan has so filled your heart that you have lied to the Holy Spirit and kept for yourself some of the money you received for the land? Didn't it belong to you before it was sold? And after it was sold, wasn't the money at your disposal? What made you think of doing such a thing? You have not lied just to human beings, but to God. When Ananias heard this, he fell down and died. And with great fear seized all who had heard what happened. Then some young men came forward, wrapped up his body, and carried him out and buried him. About 3 hours later, his wife came in, not knowing what had happened. Peter asked her, Tell me, is this the price you and Ananias got for the land? Yes, she says, that is the price. Peter said, How could you conspire to test the Spirit of the Lord? Listen, the feet of the men who buried your husband are at the door, and they will carry you out also. At that moment she fell down at his feet and died. Then young men came in, finding her dead, carried her out, and buried her beside her husband. Great fear seized the whole church and all who heard about these events. And that is the word of the Lord. The article today is titled A New Perspective of Wealth by Lexi Sundberg. Here's what Lexi writes. The way of Jesus calls us to live differently in the world. Instead of doing what fallen nature says and looking out solely for ourselves, getting ahead by any means necessary, God requires us to think outside of culture and sin. Part of that alternate way is being generous and being honest. Where the world says to keep our wealth, Jesus calls for us to take care of each other from what we have been given. Where the world tells us to hide our blessings in fear of having to share, Jesus calls on us to be open about it with each other. Ananias and Sapphira were trying to have it both ways in this passage. They wanted the commendation and benefits that came with sharing their wealth, but they did not want to dedicate it all to God. Instead, they were dishonest and paid for that dishonesty. They were not living according to the gospel, but rather to feed their own desires and wants. God knows our hearts and knows our insincerity. When we give and share our blessings, we should do so because it is what we are asked to do, not because we want accolades. The hymn today is Living for Jesus by Thomas O. Chisholm. Living for Jesus, a life that is true, striving to please Him in all that I do. And from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 38. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And that is your daily devotion for Friday, August the 19th. Have a blessed day.